the Confederacy can take some lessons from ancient Rome, and actually there could be some loose alliances between certain people up north and people down south that are of the type of freedom-minded spirit. I know that since the early 60s, there's been encouragement for reenactments of the Civil War battles, or the war between the states, or the War of Northern Aggression battles that took place between 1861 and 1865. And it's a good thing that things are being reenacted, because people can remember exactly what happened during that time and not forget what the Confederates really were fighting for. See, these people weren't what you call blind order followers. What these people were people fighting for their own homes and families, farms, and their economic freedoms, because the taxation, the draconian taxation policies of the North, was what really caused the South to secede. Even though, I'll tell you this, that Abe Lincoln, despite being a dictator and suspending habeas corpus and doing all these bad things, there were certain things that were even worse than him, behind him, that he was trying to fight, which was called central banking. And that was really what did Abe Lincoln in. And, you know, as bad as Abe Lincoln was, there were people that were more powerful than him, that were behind him, that were worse than he was. So, anyway, I just want to say that the Confederate, you'd almost think, you know, how long is this going to last that there'll be Confederate images? Now, I'm going to give you a little, maybe people aren't aware of this, but in Italy, they still celebrate the birth of Rome every year. Rome was founded April 21st, 753 BC. That's what that's what's agreed upon, because it's kind of difficult to say an exact pinpoint date when Rome was actually founded. So come this April 21st, 2018, the year of Rome would be 2771. And that's exactly how time was measured. Today, time is measured from the birth of Christ, or within a few years of the birth of Christ, actually, because it's a little bit off the way they figured it out. But in the time of Rome, it was measured from the time of the birth of Rome. Still today, there are still celebrations going on in Italy about the birth of Rome. You're talking 2,771 years later. So this could be the future for the Confederacy as long as we stay true. And what I'm going to tell you here is that the best approach is to take what I call the Fabian approach. Now, you've probably heard of the Fabian Society, and I'll get on with that in a second. But I also think this, and it's good to have statues of leaders like, of course, Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, or Kirby Smith down in Florida. And but I think one of the things that probably to maybe take some of the, element of, say, whoever the person is that you put the statue up of, there might be something about that person that you could say bad. Because nobody, even if they're 99% good, nobody is 100% perfect, right? One thing I think there should be to celebrate the Confederate soldier is in statues that are of Johnny Reb. I think that's a better approach to take, because it was the individuals that were doing most of the fighting. It wasn't the generals per se, and it was the individuals that are fighting for their own homes and families. So taking that approach with a Johnny Reb statue, I think is, I think it's great to have the general statues too, but I think there should be more emphasis on Johnny Reb statues, the average Confederate soldier, what he really fought for. And just going to get on with a little more of this. Now, if you look back during the time of ancient Rome, there were 3 Punic Wars, which was, Rome was invaded by Carthage. This happened over decades. And in between the times, these wars, there was times when they were depriving the enemy of using the land, which was considered the Fabian approach, where General Fabian, although he knew his army, the Roman army, couldn't defeat the Carthaginian army in head-on battle, what he did was to take an approach to deprive them of resources, and that's probably the best approach that the Confederacy should have ever. In some ways they have been doing this ever since day one, with the moonshiners and all that type of stuff. But where NASCAR came from, but where it was good back. NASCAR was great back in the '60s and '50s. Boy, I loved it. I don't like it no more. That's just a side note. But that's the thing you want to do. You want to actually not try to send some big boom and message and try to stop the people that are anti-Southern and anti-Southern ways, and always disparage everything that the Confederacy really tried to do, and they lie about what the Southern cause was about. Sometimes you just can't beat them head on, but you can always fight them in subtle ways, and that's the best way to do it. That's called basically the Fabian approach, and it works. It works, and the reason it works is because it was adopted by our enemies. This is Quintus Fabius Maximus, the inspiration for the Fabian Society. He was a Roman general, and sometimes people, they were complaining that this guy was almost like a coward, because sometimes he'd win skirmishes. Many times he would win skirmishes, and they're thinking, why not just get in a battle with the Carthaginians and get it over with? But he wouldn't do that because he knows they weren't strong enough to beat him. Eventually, the Carthaginians were subdued by Scipio Africanus. He was named Africanus after adopting the policies and strategies of the Carthaginians. Now, it's a shame that our communist enemies, because communism, socialism, and Marxism is the absolute enemy of what the Confederacy stood for. As a matter of fact, the Confederacy, even though they lost, they put back cultural Marxism, set it back at least 50 years. And even in the South, most of the states are more constitutional than they are up in the North, by far. The Fabian Society was taken from the Roman general Fabius Maximus. It's a British political organization, but it's in the United States too. Gradually changing Britain to a socialist society, which they've already done. But you got to do it gradually. You vote for quote-unquote good things that take away your freedoms. Anytime you have the government give you a little more protection in exchange for some of your freedom, and also in exchange for some of your money, tax dollars, you're taking a move towards socialism. Whether it's on a Washington, D.C. level, the national level, whether it's on a state level or the county level. And believe me, I don't think these people around here, even in my county, like me, because I'm anti, excessive government to the max. It's playing the wolf in the sheep's clothing down here. You see this, and to tell you the truth, I know people get mad at me. I was always suspecting Trump. Trump is the guy, and I'm going to tell you something else about this whole thing, the 9 yards. You say Trump is this big, I always said he was a big BS artist, and, he's got a patriotic streak in him. He's not all bad. I think Trump, now I'm going to mention this Trump guy, even though this is not really, because he's going to be here and then he's going to be gone, he's not going to be around forever. But I think one of the best things about Trump is his sons. His sons are freaking more constitutionalist than he is. If you remember back, the wolf in sheep's clothing, I don't want to get too much down this angle here, but, I remember Trump took every political position there was. He used to be for partial birth abortions. He was for illegal immigration, He was for gun bans and all this other stuff. So, then all of a sudden, they told him what to say, you know what I mean? They studied, and he's a super salesman, I know the type. I don't think he's nowhere near as bad as Hillary. I know that, but hey, just I'm telling you this, and I'm going to tell you what you really got to do. Now, I personally think this. I know not everybody up north who's Italian there's some freaking people up there that are Italian are really screwed up. I'm half Italian, right? So, and I'm from up north. I mean, I got Confederate Southern heritage. I did not want to stay up north because I'm freaking sick of the garbage up there. It's like, it's not the weather. it's, well, it's the attitude. I'd say way over 99% of the people up there aggravate the hell out of me. I mean, a lot of people down south kind of aggravate me too, because I consider they don't have the balls to even do what I'm doing. I'm not even from here, originally. But now that I've been down here over 22 years, I'm like, and plus I got Confederate heritage. I'm not kissing nobody's ass by adopting this Confederate flag. And also, I do have genuine Confederate heritage, but I got Italian heritage. But I tell you the truth, a lot of Italians up north, they don't like the excessive rules. That's why you have a Cosa Nostra. I mean, for crying out loud, we do our own thing. They're like renegades. And tell you the truth, in Italy, South Italy especially, they've adopted this Confederate flag often because it's something that they're fighting the man. Now I'm going to tell you this guy, Dylan Roof. This guy was a freak. This was a complete psychop. This was an MK Ultra Tavistock psychop. You see this flag he's holding in his hand here right now? That was photoshopped in. I looked at the finger position of this guy's, where he had the finger around that flag. That was a Photoshop. These pictures were released by the Soros-funded Southern Poverty Law Center. You know that? And I think this was originally, I said on another video, Dylan Roth Mitchell. This was a complete psychop. As a matter of fact, if you go back into the 1960s, in the late 50s, early 60s and late 50s, when the Civil Rights Movement was coming on, they timed that. Civil Rights Act in 1957 was timed exactly with the committees they formed in the Congress to push to allow the states to individually celebrate the 100 years of the war between the states. And then the media would get out there and show this flag where they're doing a Civil War reenactment celebration, and then they would show a Civil Rights March, and they would make all these associations. Like today, they still say that the flag they put up over the South Carolina Capitol back in April 1961 was put there in response to the Civil Rights Movement. No, it wasn't. It was put there as a 100-year commemoration of the firing on the tax collection point, Fort Sumter, where the Yankees were trying to collect taxes right smack in the middle of South Carolina's harbor. Now, I always say this, I knew Trump when he was talking about this wall. The wall should really be around Washington, D.C. This is a Roman siege works when they're sieging a city. You put a wall around Washington, D.C., you dig a moat, you put ramparts, and you starve them into submission. Then you drain, that'll drain the swamp, okay? That's how you drain the swamp right there. You don't send one of the swamp members into that place. That's about all we did, man. Trump's going to wave the American flag, but when Trump waves the Confederate flag, and he puts the Confederate flag up on the top of the White House, I'll start believing him, okay? He starts playing Dixie at the inaugural. I'll start believing you then, Trump. Okay? Then we know you're legit. Maybe. Possibly. But, the deal is, it's like not many people are really carrying a banner today. I mean, not just the symbol of the flag, but what it was about. What the South really fought for. The South was right. The South fought for the same reasons that the colonies broke away from the UK in 1776. Same reasons, except the South had more reasons, because the tea tax was nothing compared to what they were doing with the import taxes in exchange for cotton, on the South. They were really screwing the South up really bad ever since the whole country was formed. And when Abe got in, I know some people say in the 1850s the tax was the lowest it was. Well, that's true. That's true. But it was with the election of Abe Lincoln where the tax was going to skyrocket to all-time highs. That's what happened. It wasn't, if Abe Lincoln was elected and he didn't raise the import tax on the goods in exchange for cotton, because what they do is they do an exchange of commodities type tax. When cotton was exported, there would be an exchange of goods coming in from Europe. And at that time, the tax was levied on the goods coming in from Europe. So the South would get a lot less goods from Europe because of the import tax in exchange for their cotton. In effect, it was a tax on cotton. I mean, it's the same thing, even though it wasn't an export tax, it was an import tax. But in effect, it was exactly an tax on cotton, no matter how you slice it, because it was in exchange. In other words, if you sold your cotton, you got way less stuff because you had a tax on the imports that were coming in exchange for the cotton. That's what happened. But with Lincoln, if he was elected and he wasn't behind that, the South would have never seceded. It wouldn't have happened. Because, they're bleeding the South dry forever. But the way to fight them, though, is the Fabian approach. It's like, don't be afraid. I get pissed off at this stuff with this heritage, not hate garbage, because they got it on you now where, they associated the civil rights movement with the celebrations the South did that were encouraged to do by the U.S. Congress. There was committees set up in 1957 and also I think it was 1961 in the early 60s, whereby the Congress encouraged the individual southern states to set up celebrations of 100-year commemoration of the war between the states. 1861, 1865, so it would be celebrating 1961, 1965. And at the same time, you got these civil rights marches being pushed forth with the media, and I tell you, I think it was a big Tavistock operation. That's out of the UK. And I think Dylann Roof was an MK Ultra guy. Now, you look at, 2015 when the Dylann Roof thing happened. That's a 150-year celebration from 1865. They hate this symbol, man. You know why? Because it's talking about people breaking free from the, like they talk, breaking free from the Matrix, okay? Break on through from the other side, like Jim Moore said or something. I don't know. But you know what I mean, right? People are breaking free. Now, I could tell you one of the problems, too, is when you're digging out all this stuff with the labyrinth of how everything works, it's not just hands-on Fabian society that's doing it. It's all the people that are even, not just in the military and law enforcement, but it's also the professionals. You can hands-on pretty much say that anybody in the military and law enforcement are order followers. Most of them, vast majority of them, right? They'll follow any orders, constitutional or unconstitutional or not, But beyond them, you got all the money people. You got the attorneys, you got the CPAs, you got the medical doctors. The medical doctors, if they know vaccinations are unhealthy for people and they lower your immune system and they'll cause cancer in people later on, they don't care. They know better. The few that were good, what happened to them? What happened to them in Florida? 80 of them are no longer with us. So it's not just, this only. But fight them on every single front. That's the only way there is. And I could probably tell you this is, there's no reason this video should be unadvertised or friendly, but it might be because of the way they are on YouTube. I don't know. I have no idea what the heck their parameters are with stuff except, worship the state and whatever. And actually, to tell you the truth, all these people that, when they're coming out with all this stuff with, LBGT rights or whatever, if I say that right, they're just using those people. They're just using them. The money powers are just using them, man. That's all they're doing. It's like, it's not going to last. It's going to be throwaways after a while, So, anyway, I think the Confederacy is going to be around a long time. Because if you're looking at how Rome still celebrates its traditions, they still are today. Thousands of years later. Italians have not forgotten their Roman heritage. Not at all. Not in the least. And it's good to know that a lot of people in South Italy have adopted that Confederate flag because they feel wronged from, the industrialist monies of North Italy. And that's my gold digger cat. You heard her go meow. So, it's like, there might be a loose alliance coming up here. That might be something. And I know, like, if you're talking about certain politicians like de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, Cuomo, the governor of New York, or Nancy Pelosi, those are not representative of average Italians. I can tell you that right now. Every single person I know that's my family from up New Jersey that is Italian, they can't stand any of those people. Pelosi, de Blasio, and Cuomo, they can't stand them. I don't know how these people get in political office, man. I don't think they got the vote of the Italian Americans up there. Maybe they cheated, Maybe that's what happened. What do you say, Gold Digger? That's my little cat making noise down there. Just fed her twice, and she's already hungry again. But, yeah, anyway. So, just to tell you that, adopt the Fabian approach also. Adopt it. And don't be afraid, I hate that garbage when they say heritage, not hate. Are you, what are you're relinquishing ground when you're saying that. That's like saying you want to own a gun because, it's the same as some guy that wants to own some golf clubs. You make that kind of argument, heritage, not hate, you're going to lose. It's your right to free expression, for one. And the thing is, you got to, one thing I always liked about, what do you call them, the Cosa Nostra, is they do things outside the government. You make some money, fine, good, great. Just keep making money. One of the group of people down south that, really kept things going financially, was the moonshiners. They adopted the flag, the Confederate flag. A lot of ways they were fighting the damn system again, still. That gave birth to the NASCAR, which NASCAR was great back in the 50s and 60s when they were real stock cars. I don't know what the heck they got today. And when they took that flag out of NASCAR, it's freaking NASCAR's going down the tubes, man. They are corporations, but that's how you get them, man. That's how you get them. And I've never subscribed to cable TV in decades. Oh, it's horrible. Even on YouTube, I don't subscribe to any of the large channels. No, I don't care. It's only the small guys. That's all I subscribe to. And sometimes I wonder, how the hell they bury these guys. I just found this one called High Impact Vids or something, or High Impact Flicks, or High Impact Vids or Flicks. And I was like, where the hell is this guy all these freaking years, man? He's got everything demonetized, and it's like maybe they're giving him back some of that, but, they don't like him. And I'm like, everything he's putting out is truthful. I'm like, what the hell's the matter with this garbage, But that's what made YouTube. That's what made it. It's like they freaking tear up everybody. They tear everybody up, and they knock out freedom of expression. They're gonna go by the, I don't pay for no cable TV. I hate it. They couldn't pay me to watch the garbage, But the way to fight this stuff actually is the Fabian approach. The Fabian Marxist socialists, they adopted the policy of General Maximus Fabian, and it's not their policy to adopt. The Confederates ought to adopt this policy too. Keep the spirit alive, any possible way you possibly can. And if people are afraid to freaking say anything, be a bunch of little cucks, you know how they are, right? Professionals. I can't stand the professionals, man. I really don't. That's why I was in the office, even when I was in the office, I always kept one foot in the redneck stuff. Because I know eventually it's going to be 2 feet in the redneck stuff just to survive in this country. The professionals are going bye-bye. Because they're all a bunch of pencil pushing geeks. They ain't worth nothing. They don't know how to do anything. So, anyway, I think the traditions of the Confederacy are going to be around as long as Italy's been keeping the traditions of Rome around. So, stay true to the cause. And, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid and, take 2 steps back and say, oh, it's heritage, not hate. That's stupid. You know? I personally like the motto, secede from the swamp. That's a new motto that should be applicable to today, as I put out my last advertiser unfriendly video. You know, secede from the swamp. That's the only way to do it, man. You know? I mean, why the hell should people from down south even fight in these wars for corporations and big oil? Why do that? You know? They got back into the freaking crooked system again. I think the only two times America actually fought a war that was just was 1861 to 1865, when it was the South. That side was just. And also the colonies when they broke away from the UK. That was it. I don't even know what Spanish-American War, remember the Maine? That was a coal fire that just happened to happen, you know? They said the Spanish did it. They didn't do it, you know? Everything's a big ruse. Everything. That's why, these guys, something bugs me too. I just have to add this. I know it went too long. But I know a lot of these historians will say, these Confederates weren't professional soldiers. Yeah? You think the Yankees were? You think they were? They were getting Irish and Germans right off the boat and put them in a blue uniform. These were Americans, these Southerners. They were working on farms. They knew how to use tools and guns and knives. They were used to hunt, fish, freaking skin stuff and make clothes out of it. You know what I mean? They knew everything. They knew how to survive off the land. These are far better professional soldiers than the ones you're grabbing off the boat coming in, sticking in a blue uniform. That's what they're doing up north. But boy, these historians, they like talking their nose down at everybody. But me, I'm going to tell you, I'm not, I know Southerners are more polite than I am. I'm more direct. And, but, I'm not coming at it, maybe you could say I'm coming at these guys as an outsider, not a true Southerner. But let me put it to you this way, I know these jerks from up north, man. That's why I know Trump, too. I suspected that. Now I'm really suspect. Now I'm like, forget it. He's not as bad as Hillary, but, man, don't trust that guy. He ain't draining no swamp. I guarantee you that part. And the only way we're going to drain the swamp is if we all secede. And the swamp will just be this little island out there, Washington, D.C., and they can figure out how they're going to survive with no tax money. Because we got to revive this moonshine and stuff again. Hey, get the moonshine going again. Oh, they made that illegal in Florida big time. Florida used to be the big moonshining state even in the 1950s. Now they got it where you can't even possess, the stuff to make moonshine. They'll come in, because this whole state got taken over by a bunch of carpetbaggers. But I'm going to try to knock them out of here, man. I'm going to tell you that right now. I want to try to knock them out of here. I want to try to be both in Florida and Tennessee. Both. This way I can defend the southern border and the northern border. That may be the strategy that I'm going to keep. Anyway, over and out.